Rauscher here. Welcome back to our 14th chapter, our final chapter in the book, Adult Spiritual Development, the primitive ego journey from childhood conditioning to an adult, mature, awakened consciousness. In chapter 14 here, I'm going to try to help us summarize a little bit of what we've been learning and talking about in the first 13 chapters. It's really pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to be talking about authentic spirituality for the 21st century. And if you're this far into the course with me, then you know that authentic spirituality happens only when we grow in self-awareness. So the premise that I'm making is that all of us are on the path to an increased level of self-awareness, that we are willing to do the inner work, to look inside and pay attention to the energy that we're sending into the world. That is an authentic spirituality, and that's what we've been talking about, of how to create that in the 21st century. Trust me, there's a fairly short supply of it right now. And our world needs more people like you who have followed for 13 chapters, either because you're a glutton for punishment or because you really do have a deep desire to change how you think and how you react and how you behave in our world, okay? And thank you for being with me and sticking with me on all 13 chapters here and today. It's a lot of work. And it takes a lot of courage because we have to look at parts of ourselves we really don't like. So let's take a look at the summary here. Basically, what I want to point out is what we need to teach our children. And obviously, it's kind of it's a summary of everything that we've done in the first 13 chapters is what you're really going to teach. But don't teach them with words. I can't emphasize that strong enough. Model it, be it, okay? Become a middle path thinker. And as you do, and as you model that, and as you grow in your own self-awareness, trust me, your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors, your spouse, people around you at work, they'll see the difference, okay? It'll take a while because it's a lot of work to get to that level of enlightenment. But it is possible, and what I hope is that the book has shown you that it really is possible, and it's very rational. It's just a way of thinking, okay? Teach our children, and one of the first things is that our future is intertwined with the health and survival of our Earth Mother. If our planet doesn't survive, and our primitive ego, believe me, is doing a pretty good job of narcissistically focusing on what's in it for us, if we can't transcend that and begin to work in a right relationship with nature and the health of our planet, I'm not sure where we're going to go as a species, but I don't think it's going to be a good place. Okay, second thing, teach our children that all creation, all of nature is sacred. It's our universe. This is the evolutionary process of becoming that's been incarnate in every single aspect of our universe for 13.7 billion years. What you teach them, and again, not with words, but show them, model it, that a flower or a butterfly or a tree is sacred. It's awesome. It's a miracle. It's the result of 8,000 million years. And that's just getting ready before the Earth starts even. It's 8,000 million years of evolution, and then 5,000 million years of evolution on our planet to get that flower and that butterfly. And when you begin to think about the process, the biology involved, It's staggering. It's awesome. It's just a miracle. Teach our children to embrace change. Teach our children to, and again, model it. Don't teach it, model it. Just embrace change. Accept the fact that everything is in flux. Everything changes. And the best way to find ways of moving forward is middle path thinking, okay? Work with the evolutionary impulse to become. Be in a right relationship with nature. If our children can learn that from us as a result of this book, I will be absolutely delighted, okay? Any child who can be influenced by the book, I will consider that a major success, okay? So help me with that. Teach our children that the Creator, and this is a tough one because it's going to challenge some of the old structures and stages of human development, the traditional particularly, and that is that the Creator is not the source of love and compassion in the world, as we've been taught, okay? And I intentionally do not use the word creator or God, I use the word creator. But whatever the source of this universe is, it's not the source of love and compassion. It's the ability to be loving and compassionate. And that means that we are the source of love and compassion. We are the co-creators that manifest that. And if we don't do it, trust me, it will not be present in this reality. How do we know? Very simple. 100,000 human beings were slaughtered in the 20th century by primitive ego thinking. People who thought they had the truth, they were absolutely right. There was no negotiation. They got together on the middle path and just butted heads, and 100,000 people died in the 20th century. If love and compassion is going to be in the 21st century, then you and I have got to be the source of that love and compassion. If we sit around and wait for somebody else to do the work, if somebody else, being God or Creator or anyone else, my fear is that we'll have another 100,000 or more in this century, and we're well on our way, by the way. Teach our children these concepts to embrace middle path thinking. Again, model it. Just show them. Always ask, you might ask the question, so what's the truth in the other person's point of view? Now, they're not going to want to look at that any more than you and I like to look at that. But if you can kind of help them recognize that there's always truth on both sides of every issue, that's a massive, major step forward in their consciousness, okay? And that's basically the consciousness that our whole human culture needs to learn to embrace. Truth on both sides of every issue. Teach them that there are many paths to the top of the mountain. And just because someone else is not on our spiritual path does not mean that they're lost. It just means they have a different path to the top of the mountain. If we're going to have an evolutionary spirituality, then we have to embrace all of the faith beliefs of all the previous stages and recognize that there's wisdom and truth in all of that teaching. Okay? So an open mind. It's taking it all in and working with it. The Native Americans, like I've talked about, and I think in the last chapter, Native Americans have a lot. Maybe I did it here. Anyway, Native Americans have a lot to teach us about being in a right relationship with nature. And if we're going to be wise, we are going to start listening and valuing those teachings. Okay? They have a lot of wisdom embedded in them. Teach our children that and this is what I'm encouraging us to think about, if not you and I, then who? If we're not the ones that are going to bring compassion and enlightened consciousness into the world by our work of growing in self-awareness, and it is hard work, then who's going to do it? That person over there, because guess what? They're waiting for us to do it, okay? The other is, if not now, then when? If we're not willing to do it right now, when are we going to be willing to do it? Tomorrow? Next month? Next year? Next century? At some point, it's going to be too late. Sustainability, and this is the point that I'd really like to leave us with. Sustainability, learning how to be in a right relationship with nature, is never going to be achieved with primitive ego thinking. Let me say it again because it's hugely important. Sustainability and learning to live in a right relationship with nature, which is what we need to do if we're going to protect our planet, is not something that the primitive ego can accomplish. The primitive ego is too narcissistic, too self-focused, too needing to be right, too defensive of their self-identity, and basically the primitive ego is not willing to change or embrace any of the thinking. The basic approach of the primitive ego is what's in it for me, okay? And we know that's not going to work. So again, I just want to leave you, if not you and I, then when? And if not now, then when? Or who? If not you and I, then who? Sorry about that. If not now, then when? Okay? Thank you for being with me on this course. This is kind of the summation of almost 2 decades as a psychotherapist in private practice, working with people who are struggling to create lives that they wanted to live, not the lives that they were living, but what are the skills that they needed so that they could begin to create a happy and successful life. So all of those folks have helped me to understand a lot of what this journey is about, and my book, Adult Spiritual Development, I hope has been helpful for you. Okay, it's kind of the distillation of almost 20 years of work. Okay, thanks for being with me. Stay awake. Have a great awakened life. Stay conscious, become self-aware, and make a difference in the world. We need every single one of us doing that.